So we hear of imminent threats. Two, one dealing with our 911 and one dealing with cybersecurity. Both are legitimate as in the sources they're coming from. Now, can we trust the situation? Can we think that America can handle the situation and FBI can handle the situation? Hopefully so. But today we're gonna role play it a little bit. We're gonna role play if we had just these few days to prepare for this imminent threat to our 911 or imminent threat to our cyber security, our well-being, our technology. What can we possibly do? Are you ready for that? Now today, the whole point of the video is to say, okay, we need to check some things off the list that we should be working through, and that way we know that if something like this does take place, because remember, it's not that we trust all these three-letter agencies telling us this, but it's the fact that one day they may not be crying wolf and it actually may happen. Would you be ready? Let's discuss it today. This video starts right now. This is going to be bad, this is going to be bad, this is going to be bad, that we get so desensitized to it that we don't think anything will actually ever happen here on US soil. And all the while, and then now we're in a panic situation. Now you're worried what can happen. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up because it sure does help us stay relevant here on this platform, and it does help us share our message. And our goal is to grow our channel so we can, as a whole, we can build wisdom, have a common sense approach to the world that we live in. Now today's video is a little different. We're going to take two real life stories, things that are going on in the news right now, and then we're going to role play them out as saying, okay, if this takes place, what are we needing? What do we have? Are we kept safe? What should we be doing? Okay, so first, there was a story that came out that said 911 was down for several states where people could not get in touch with law enforcement, with fire, with EMTs, and with hospitals. Now, that's a real big issue. In this case, because there was nothing else going on, even though it was a big issue, if you had an automobile or you had a way to get to those places, you were okay. But there was 3 to 4 states in this. This came from Raw Alerts, one of the news channels on Twitter. So if we see that 911 was down for a few states, it did cause a lot of problems. It caused a lot of issues with getting police where they needed to go. And, I think they finally got it resolved, but they couldn't figure out what caused it. They said, well, this could be something way worse than what we thought. It could be cyber, or it could just be simply a flaw in our infrastructure. Okay, first one. Then second one, Chris Wray came out and said this week, which is the FBI director, which again, most of the time when he talks, I don't really listen because, man, I don't know if you could trust the guy. I really don't. But it came out and he said that there's an imminent threat to our infrastructure, our cyber security infrastructure from China. They believe that there's hackers actively trying to hurt our infrastructure here in America, our technology. Okay, so we have 2 stories dealing with some kind of cyber issue, some kind of technological issue. On the other hand, our elected officials just passed a no-look warrant FISA intelligence service. So they can surveil Americans with what they call a no-look, that everyone, quote unquote, is and possibly could be a threat. Now that is the words. Everyone could possibly be a threat. Now that's a little scary in itself, but let's divulge all this going on right now, and if something like this happened on a bigger level or in a city where people don't drive as much, what should we be having and what should we be doing? In this day and time, it seems like everybody who loses Wi-Fi capabilities or loses technology goes absolutely bonkers. If all of a sudden you hear that a cyber attack happens, I'll be honest with you, most people would be willing to say I would rather have any other attack, physical attack, because people are so involved in technology, and technology runs our lives, runs our businesses. If you think of a physical attack, people would say, okay, that may be in a different state, it doesn't affect me. That issue on the border may not affect me. But a technological cyber attack can affect everybody or affect a major region. Let's talk cyber for a second. Let's talk about our technology. You know, your technology, such as your sewage system, such as your water that runs to your home, unless you're, on a well like I am, all that's coming in based on technology, computer systems, and electric use. Think of our computers, think of our work, how our networking is done, how most of our companies keep everything pretty much on servers now. Think of your hospitals. They've went away from hard paper and they've went on servers. So your history, your medical history, what you need, what you don't need, all that's pretty much handled via technology now. Communication, there's hardly no such thing as a landline phone anymore. It's all telecommunications. It's all based on voice over IP. So it means it uses servers, it uses wireless capabilities to be able to speak and communicate other than satellite phones or some kind of older frequency such as CBs or ham radios. So now, that means everything that we know is ran off technology. If any government wants to attack America, you know good and well, our security systems and our security forces and our skies, a lot of that is pretty much safe. I'm not saying something like a physical attack couldn't happen here, but it would be very hard for a country to do that. What are ways that someone like China could infiltrate our country and hurt us worse? Technology, of course, is one, and secondarily is implosion of polarization of politics. Well, we're there with that. No one can get along for any reason. But now let's talk technology. Your gas, your petroleum pipelines that runs into your homes, into your gas stations to fill your automobiles. It's all based on technology. The grid that we need to work our EV cars and to work our homes is technology. We have put everything on technology, so I hope and pray that our government has put up good defenses for it. Our grid is pretty volatile. That was brought up in not only the Obama years, but also the Trump years, and they were supposed to do more about it and actually invest in that infrastructure, but I don't think a lot went into it. Texas came out with a report and said by 2030 there will be no way that Texas's grid can handle the amount of energy that it would be needing to pump. So they're needing investments into the grid. That's just one section of it. So if we're not investing in it, what do we do? Are we not putting enough defense to it? Now, all that being said, the FBI said that there is definitely a chance of a cyber attack and there's imminent threat to our cybersecurity from China. 911 did go down in a few areas. If you remember a few years ago, the Colonial Pipeline did go down in our area in the southeast part of the United States where it stopped the maneuvering of fuel and it made people kind of panic buy fuel. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now let's just role play it a little bit. What if all of a sudden that happens? What if all of a sudden we have a weak link and because of all the issues that were going on, all the polarization, all the implosion, all the fact that our leadership looks a little weak, what if all of a sudden they get a way to get into one of our systems, our servers, and does an attack? Now, don't think it's impossible. I believe it's very possible. I think of how we protected ourselves and then all of a sudden 9/11 happened. I believe how we protected ourselves and we still see shootings, we still see situations, we still see problems all across the U.S. Our cities are struggling to control its own murder and theft rates. So things happen. And we have weak links throughout the whole chain of America. But if this happens, it affects everything. Now let's talk about some of the steps that you may be having to take care of yourself. So the way I address this is the following. If I had to put myself back in the early 1920s, could I make it? And that's the way we have to think. Pre-technology and also okay, I can call the police, I can call medics and make sure I'm safe. I got to look past that. So if I cannot do that, I've got to say, okay, I'm going to put myself, pre-Depression age, pre-World War II, pre-World War I era to say, can I live, can I sustain like those families would have done during that time? So you have to look at food and water. Have you got some food and water put up? Now, for you that live in cities who can't grow food, that's not a problem. It's just you have to be a little bit more proactive about it. You have to start stockpiling and buying bulk foods. Have you thought about freeze-dried foods? Have you thought about putting canned foods up? I don't want to hear the excuse that, oh, I don't have the room. Well, guess what? If all of a sudden this takes place, it doesn't matter what room you had. If you don't have food, you are now panicking in the streets, and that puts you in a more vulnerable situation. You're not looking to be the gray man anymore. You're looking to feed your family. So you're going crazy and you're starting to panic buy. So food and water are key. So I would challenge you to look at food and water storage. Water storages such as bricks, those little water bricks, such as big 55-gallon drums, such as rainwater catchment if you're in areas that can catch water. You need to find ways and means to filter water, but also have an access to water. It takes 1 to 3 gallons per person per day to sustain the life that we pretty much have right now. So that means for hygiene, for cooking, and also for ingesting. Can you put up that amount of water? Say you were down for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Say it was just 1 week. Say you were just preparing for 1 week. You would need 7 to 21 gallons basically per person for a week. So that means if you have 3 people in your family, that's 21 gallons a day at minimal. Are you gonna be able to put up, 100 gallons, 150 gallons, 200 gallons for a week? So if you had to put up 1 to 3 gallons plus the filtration to filter it, if all of a sudden you were catching it, from a roof or something like that, you'd want to filter it. But if not, are you catching it and putting it in food grade or water grade safe containers for yourself? Food wise, if you're balancing out a 2,000 calorie diet, say you go to 1,500 because you're in a situation that's a little scary and you're trying to ration your food, can you put up 1,500 calories to 2,000 calories per day per person in your home for over 7 to 10 days? Without having to go anywhere to do that. Well, I challenge you to look at places like freeze-dried companies. I think of My Page Supply, Nutrient Survival, Legacy Food. Those are all great companies, or if there's another company that you buy from, what is wrong with buying a little extra freeze-dried food? Even with us growing as much food as we do, I have tons of freeze-dried foods, because if I all of a sudden couldn't walk out, all of a sudden if I lost everything, all of a sudden we had a drought like we did just a few months ago and I lost a lot of my food, my vegetation, my animals, I'd want to make sure I had enough food. So have you thought about food and water? Now you think about hygiene, you think about taking care of yourself medicinally. Have you thought about your medicines that you would need? Have you talked to emergency prepared companies? Have you talked to your pharmacy to say, you know what, I'm one of those weirdos, I want at least an extra, month supply of whatever I get. If they won't allow you to get it, then why don't you talk to someone like Jace, the companies that we use? Because if you had to go and have some medicine, I'll tell you this situation. I had a situation just yesterday where someone in our family just was very nauseated, was very sick, could not get to the doctor and chooses not to really go to the doctor. We had some emergency preparedness medicine for nausea. We were able to say, hey, here's some right here. We gave it to them and now they're a whole lot better. Now, is that a big serious thing? No, but guess what? You may take medicines that are very serious. So you better find ways to put your medicine up. Also, hygiene. Our skin is the biggest tissue or organ system that we have on our body. If we allow it to break down and we don't have ways to have first aid and have hygiene, what's to say that could be very detrimental to us? Think of our teeth, our mouth. All that matters. We've done a whole list on how to stockpile for your teeth and mouth and first aid. So go check those out for hygiene. So we need to think of medicine and hygiene. If we can't forage, or if we can forage, do we have books on it? Do we know what we're looking for? If we don't have the medicine over the counter, can we get the prescriptions or the antibiotics we're needing just in case something goes majorly down? You think of medicine. Our whole medical system is based on data and servers put up. If all of a sudden panic broke out, do you believe our ERs and our hospitals would be full? Absolutely. What's to say I want to put myself in that situation unless it's last resort? I would want to make sure I could do as much as I can from my home. So have you thought about emergency preparedness, medicine, hygiene, and medicinal over-the-counter needs, first aid? Some of those things could be very vital. The simplest of cuts could be infected, and if you don't have ways to treat it, then you're putting yourself out in a very precarious situation trying to go to a hospital or a clinic that is already overrun because of the panic that ensues. And think of defense. We just talked about securing our home and defending our home. I just did a video 3 days ago on that. We talked about some of the things that are non-lethal, and then we've also talked about self-defense in a little bit, harder terms, to where if we have these things, we have to protect those things. If we have these things, how can we make sure that we tactically can make sure they're safe? Are we putting them up in different areas? We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. We're also making sure that we can see during the day and also at night. We're making decisions based on that. We're making decisions based on protecting our windows, protecting our doors, putting extra security measures in there, because if I have all this and everybody knows I have all this, do you think that they're gonna just be like, oh, well, we'll let them have it? No. Panic ensues. They can't get it from the supermarket. They can't get it from the hospital. They're coming to you. And you've got to either provide it or withhold it. That's about all the options there is. So therefore, we have to make sure that we have a good stockpile, healthy. We're not bragging about it. The last thing you want to do is just be professing to the world that you've got all this and put in one spot, of course. You don't want that. But then at the same time, you've got to find ways to defend it, secure it, and make sure that it is safe. We have several places that are inconspicuous that are put all the way around different areas of the property and around our different areas, such as our off-grid property. So therefore, what are we doing? We are putting up for later on, and we're making sure that not all our eggs are in one basket, and that we know where they're at, and they're in inconspicuous places, but also we can secure and defend what we have. And lastly is communication. Have you told your family, if something like this happens, where's our meeting point? You think about it, cars right now, they're ran strictly technological. So if you have a smart car or you have a newer model car, it may not even move with a cyber attack. But if it does, do you have a place to go? Do you have a place to meet up? Do you have a secondary place to meet up? These are important conversations to have with your children, with your grandchildren, with your grandparents and parents, and with your siblings. Now, that doesn't mean that it's gonna get that bad. But if we don't plan for these kind of things, and all of a sudden we have an uh-oh moment or a crap hits the fan moment and a cyber attack happens, how have you communicated that to your family? Have you said, this is where we're gonna go, this is where we can keep safe and hunker down for the next 2 days, 5 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, 4 months, whatever it may be? Have you thought about CBs and radios, handheld radios, ham radios? Have you learned how to use some of that technology? Have you learned how to use different frequencies? Do you have a sat phone? We have a satellite phone and a CB and a ham radio. If I have them, that's good, but if I don't know how to use them, that's not helping me any. So I'll be honest with you, my sat phone, I could not figure out. It took me forever to figure it out. But then it took me saying, okay, I'm gonna sit down one day and just learn the sat phone like I'm supposed to. And so I did, and therefore now we know how to work it. It is kind of unique, and guess what? I can't call customer services all of a sudden I need it, and if I don't keep it charged, then it's gonna serve me no purpose. And if I don't have ways to alternatively charge something or have some kind of electricity, such as a generator or a solar generator, or some kind of ways to charge or turn on my CB, it's not gonna do any different. It's not gonna do me any benefit. So communication has a few more little keys into it. Okay, we have to communicate. We have to make sure we have a meeting point. If we don't get to that point, can my family get in touch with me through other means other than a cell phone that is now no good? Or a phone that's out at my house that's now not landline anymore? So we think about those things. We think about having meeting points. We think about having ways to communicate and ways to stay safe. And then we talk about food, water, security, hygiene, and medicinal benefits. Those are the things that you need to really hone in on, because the talk of cyber attacks, 95% probably says it probably won't happen. And if it does, it's regional. If it doesn't happen, doesn't happen, doesn't happen. I've used this analogy before with hurricanes. Every year around from, midsummer to late fall, we get hurricane warnings. They're going to tell us how bad it's going to be for this season, and we got to get ready for it. And everybody, goes and starts to find extra gas, wood for their windows. They start stockpiling up, and then all of a sudden, when this comes, it's not nearly as bad. It's not nearly as bad. It's not nearly as bad. And then all of a sudden, the 7th one of 20 was the one that destroys everything. And we were not prepared because we heard everybody say, oh, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad. It never was bad, a little wind. And then all of a sudden, one was really bad. So I'm trying to use the same analogy, not to make you panic, not to make you fear, but to say we keep hearing that this is going to be bad, this is going to be bad, this is going to be bad, that we get so desensitized to it that we don't think anything will actually ever happen here on U.S. soil. And all the while, number 7 happens. And then we are literally left with nothing, and we can't go to the store and buy it because we can't drive. We can't go and get it because we have no gas. We can't go and do it because we're worried that someone's going to break in our home. We can't get to our family because we didn't communicate where to meet. And then now we're in a panic situation. Now you're worried what can happen. So my challenge, the reason I love doing these kind of videos, not just news, not just the list, it's saying, okay, what if? If we don't make those what if decisions, that what if turns into what now? That's a serious situation. That if what if doesn't happen, great. What if does happen, it returns what now? Are we ready for the what now? That's what we should prepare for. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video can help give you a little insight and wisdom in saying, okay, let's do a little checklist. Do we have some things that we need to talk about as a family? Is there things that we need to purchase just to make sure that we're safe? And that's what I challenge you to do. You're not crazy. You just want to be prepared. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, your ultimate preparing is spiritually preparing and knowing that Christ is Lord and that you can rely on Him spiritually, because I believe if we rely on Him, then all this other stuff we'll be okay. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Happy homestead, y'all.